Now, the actual filming itself that day took place at 6:30 a.m, but they had to be wrapped up by 9:30 a.m. for a changing of the guard ceremony and had to have it all cleaned up for that. Now, good afternoon everybody, Sinead here with Free Tours by FTBFLondon. I'm standing in the middle of Chala Square and I'm attempting to learn something new today. We're going to do our actual Westminster tour, but through movie locations. Now, London has such an incredible backdrop and has been the backdrop of so many, and the creative backdrop for so many film producers and directors. We've seen it in so many iconic movies, from Notting Hill to Harry Potter, all the way to Spectre, to Die Another Day, the Fantastic Four, and that's what we're delving into today. London as a movie location. So this is going to be part 3 series of movie locations in London. Stay tuned, I hope you enjoy this one. Now, of course, one of the first is one of the most iconic movie locations in London, and it's been the inspiration for so many different movies and songs and novellas, and that is the Ritz. And I think the ones you'd be most familiar with would be the movie Notting Hill, filmed several parts, particularly inside the Trafalgar suite there of the Ritz. But of course, it's also where the likes of Charlie Chaplin as a young boy worked inside there. And Cesar Ritz worked with him actually in the kitchens itself. But I suppose the elegant interior has been the backdrop of so many amazing movies. And I believe the upcoming Bridgerton, the new one, will have several scenes inside there as well. But we're going to head around Westminster today. I'm going to do this in different parts, but Westminster is a tour that we take here with Free Tours by Foot every Wednesday, Friday and Saturday. And we will put a link into the website of how you can book onto our free tour. But of course, we have introduced a lot of new paid tours, ladies and gents, to our website. And you will get a special discount if you book onto those tours with my code, which is Sinead10. So just remember that when you are booking onto our new paid tours and our free tour. I and Margaret conduct the City of Westminster, the City of London and the London All-in-Ones, and they take place on Wednesdays, Fridays and Saturdays. But we're going to make our way to Buckingham Palace, because not only is it the London home and office of His Majesty King Charles III and Queen Camilla, it has also been the backdrop for several movies here in London. Although not exclusively allowed to film in there, but I will show you today where they actually do the filming for scenes inside the palace. Just at the top of that passageway is this beautiful home, and this is Cleveland House, ladies and gents. And this was the house that was used for the exterior scenes of the Grantham House, the London residence of the Crawley family. And of course, we all loved a bit of Downton Abbey in its day. Particularly the Dowager was always so much fun. But it appeared in a number of episodes, particularly in the one where they were staying for Rose's debutante ball and for her wedding to Atticus. So the interior shots of Grantham House were actually filmed at Basildon Park at Berkshire, but this particular one was used as the exterior. It was also used to shoot exterior shots of Marshmain House, an aristocratic palace owned by the Marshmain family in the classic 1980s TV adaptation of Evelyn Waugh's Brideshead Revisited. But this first building was built around 1626 by Thomas Howard, and he was the Master of Horse to Charles I and later the first Earl of Berkshire. This house after that was gifted, interestingly enough, to Barbara Villiers, who was Charles II's notorious mistress. One of 30 different mistresses, actually. He also gifted a house on Pall Mall to his favourite lover as well, Nell Gwynn. So that's the first stop on our movie location tour today, but next is Buckingham Palace. So let's head straight back down this little laneway here. Now, Buckingham Palace, you guys, has been the backdrop for several movie scenes in the interior as well, but it is very, very rare when anyone is actually allowed to film inside the palace. I guess the ones that we saw most recently, of course, were James Bond himself when he came to help Her Majesty parachute into the 2012 Olympic Games in London. That was an incredible scene. But Die Another Day did feature outside the exterior of Buckingham Palace. And in the film, as the media awaits the arrival of Gustav Graves, who was Toby Stevenson in the movie, to receive his knighthood at Buckingham Palace, it appears a businessman is late for his appointment, and with seconds to spare, however, Graves drops from the sky under a Union Jack parachute and lands just outside the palace gates, with James Bond, or Pierce Brosnan at the time actually, watching on as he parachuted in. Now, the actual filming itself that day took place at 6:30 a.m, but they had to be wrapped up by 9:30 a.m. for a changing of the guard ceremony, and had to have it all cleaned up for that. Now, it's also been the backdrop for several movies, but I guess Buckingham Palace, a lot of the time, most of the scenes for like the Queen and the Crown, they were filmed at the Royal Naval College at Greenwich, but the interior scenes at the palace tend to be filmed down at Lancaster House, and that's going to be our next stop today. So directly ahead of us there, you guys, behind the trees, you'll see two houses actually. One, the brown one here on the left, this is Lancaster House. Now this is the one that is used to film a lot of different series, particularly featuring the interior of Buckingham Palace. They are officially allowed to film inside here. And in there you've seen movies like The King's Speech, you've seen The Crown, Bridgerton, all of interior scenes of Buckingham Palace. And it's situated right beside the home. The White House there is Clarence House, of course, the home of King Charles and Queen Camilla. They are currently still living in Lancaster House, or in Clarence House, my apologies, but that is the one that they'll use. There's a better shot of it there in between the trees as well, you guys. So I've often passed here several times and seen huge movie equipment down here, and them all taking photos and, well, videos, and the film crews here with their trailers for The Crown particularly. So one of the most famous landmarks here on Horse Guards Road, ladies and gents, is the Cabinet War Rooms of Winston Churchill. And much of the action of Gary Oldman's movie Darkest Hour actually took place inside the war rooms. Now, it's important to note they weren't exactly allowed to film inside there, but they recreated exactly what the war rooms look like in studios in Ealing. But Churchill, or Gary Oldman, in the movie where he won the Oscar for it, he actually delivers his speech to the nation as Prime Minister in 1940, and during that summer the news from France was bad and the invasion appeared imminent. So a situation he described as a most solemn hour, and that's where that speech was filmed in there. But it's also been the location of one of the US presidents, Donald Trump, was interviewed in there by Piers Morgan as well. But the Churchill War Rooms features in several other movies with regards to World War II, and in the TV movie Into the Storm in 2009 featuring Brendan Gleeson, and also in the Churchill movie in 2017 where Brian Cox takes on the stunning role as well of Winston Churchill. But the war room, so Churchill himself actually stood on the roof of that very building watching bombs raining down in London during the Blitz, heard screaming and shouting, "Whatever you save St. Paul's Cathedral." And so they did. But probably the best movie, without a question or doubt, is Gary Oldman's Darkest Hour. I mean, it's one of those movies that every time it's on, you just fall back into it. It's incredible, and it really does show you how they operated underground. The maps, the coordinates used, Churchill's bedroom, his bathroom, the secretary's rooms. It's an incredible place to visit, but also recreated for several movies. So that really gives you an idea of how the war rooms worked during World War II. And it also features an incredible scene where Churchill, Gary Oldman in the movie, takes the Westminster Tube, ladies and gents, to Parliament from St. James's Park, which is directly on the other side, over to Westminster, and he engages with members of the public about how to deal with the wars. So check out that scene from that movie, and if you haven't seen that movie, it's absolutely breathtaking and spectacular. So next we're going to head over to the incredible Westminster Abbey. Now, folks, our incredible view of Westminster Abbey and Westminster School, ladies and gentlemen. There has been, of course, a site of Christian worship on this site for over 1,000 years. 26 kings and queens buried in there. 3,300 of the most influential people buried inside the Abbey. And since 1066, every king and queen in British history has been crowned inside in Westminster Abbey, with the exception of only 2. But this has also been the backdrop of so many famous movies, ladies and gentlemen, and you will see this particular scene in so many stills from the Da Vinci Code, the famous Da Vinci Code movie, a lot of which was filmed in Temple and at the law schools of the Inner and Middle Temple and Temple Church. But you'll see several scenes of Tom Hanks with the Abbey in the background. And one of the funniest scenes, of course, is when Joey and Chandler arrived on a sightseeing tour of London. And Joey, funnily said, I think he says, that's the best Abbey I've ever seen. And he also takes a shot, and Sarah Ferguson ends up in his camcorder shot. And he ends up talking to Fergie's Duchess of York, Sarah Duchess of York. I believe she's still the Duchess of York, Sarah Ferguson, but the ex-wife of Prince Andrew. But I think one of my favourite scenes in any movie is when Lionel Logue, the speech therapist of King George VI in the movie The King's Speech, is skipping through the Abbey, and he brings him to the Abbey to rehearse his wartime speech at the end of the movie. And he's skipping over the heads, and he said, I cannot believe I'm skipping over the heads. I think he says of Chaucer and Dickens and Hardy. And there's also another scene in that movie where King George VI, played by the incredible Colin Firth, turns around and Lionel Logue is sprawled over the coronation chair, much to the horror of King George VI. And it's such a good movie, and it just gives you all the feels. It's another one of those I would highly recommend. Oh, actually, I forgot to mention as well, this is quite big actually. Mission Impossible 8 is the only movie in history that Tom Cruise has actually been given permission to film inside in Westminster Abbey. And I think that's quite remarkable, because every movie has been refused before. Any scenes you've seen in there have been recreated in studios. So Mission Impossible 8, which is not to be released until 2025, it is the only movie that has ever been given permission to film inside there. So that must be a reflection of the relationship Tom Cruise has with His Majesty King Charles III, because he's the all-powerful man. Everyone in there is only answerable to the king, as it's a royal peculiar. So that would have come from the big boss man himself, King Charles, that permission. And this is Great College Street around the back of Westminster Abbey. And let's take you down here. So keep this on your list the next time you're having a little wander around Westminster. People forget that this is here, and I guess people are going to be annoyed with me for giving away the secrets, but I don't mind, it's for you. And I want to take you down these streets here, because this street here, they did a lot of filming of the Mary Poppins movie, all in this particular street down the end here. It's just where the bike tour is. And as we're heading down here, I just wanted to show you this famous blue plaque as well. And this gives you an insight into these blue plaques. It tells you somebody lived here, somebody died here, somebody worked here, somebody played music here. This is the home of T.E. Lawrence, ladies and gents, of Lawrence of Arabia fame. Wonderfully played, of course, by, pretty sure it was Peter O'Toole, wasn't it? It's an incredible movie. And he lived in this building here. Now, I cannot confirm or deny this, but a gentleman I met around here one day told me that this was one of the homes of Sir John Cleese as well, ladies and gents, of Fawlty Towers and Monty Python fame. But this is the street, Cowley Street, where they did a load of filming for the Mary Poppins movie, ladies and gents. And on that theme, you have two very famous chaps that lived here as well. Lord Reith, he would have been the first Director General of the BBC. But more importantly, John Gielgud of the Gielgud Theatre lived here. Actor and director lived in this building here. Now, I did look up the prices of these homes, ladies and gents. You're looking at roughly in the region of 19 to 20 million, But that's the price you pay when Big Ben is your alarm clock. As you can see, I'm kind of standing in the middle of the road here. So we have background of St. Margaret's Church. This is the Houses of Parliament, of course, and for me, this is probably one of the best views of Big Ben for a selfie and a photograph. And again, I'm featured in so many backdrops of so many different movies. And I guess one of the more famous that you remember, when the Elizabeth Tower, it plays a significant role in the plot of the 1978 film 39 Steps, when the hero, Richard Hannay, Robert Powell, discovers a secret plot to trigger war in Europe by planting a bomb in the clock tower intended to kill the visiting Greek Prime Minister. And the bomb is set to explode at 11:45 a.m. And in order to stop the clock's minute hand from reaching the world, Hannay jumps out onto the face of the clock and jams the mechanism, allowing the safe deactivation of the bomb. But it's also been used as a kind of a backdrop it's always been a target for destruction in so many famous movies, including the movie with Jack Nicholson, the sci-fi comedy Mars Attacks. It is targeted and blown up by aliens, and London Has Fallen, which is probably one of the more spectacular ones, and that was starring Gerard Butler. And it's when a cargo ship explodes, it damages the tower, and it kills the President of France in that iconic scene in the movie as well. And we'll feature again a lot more about London Has Fallen, because I think that's one of the most impressive. But next, let's head for Westminster Bridge. Another one of those iconic scenes you'll have seen in a background drop of so many different shows and movies as well, ladies and gentlemen. The incredible Houses of Parliament, Palace of Westminster. This is a great view as well from the river. Okay, so this was the iconic location for the opening scene of the incredible movie 28 Days Later, featuring Cillian Murphy, ladies and gents. And if you haven't seen it, definitely get involved. And it tells the story of the aftermath of a highly contagious, deadly virus called Rage, and that has been unleashed on Britain. And technically, Rage has turned every human being into a vicious zombie. So he's facing a zombie apocalypse, and he wanders out after being in a coma out of St. Thomas's Hospital right here, ladies and gents. And after waking up from that coma, it is eerily silent, and there is nobody, and there's no sign of anyone around, but there's significant signs that some sort of catastrophe has taken place. And as he crosses Westminster Bridge, the scene actually sets the tone for the bleak rest of the movie. And the team actually, when they came here, Central London was not shut down, so we'll show you the picture of that scene. Now, if only that it filmed it during COVID, because this was as deserted as that eerily opening scene of that movie. And we'll see if we can try and find photos of COVID during lockdown and what it looked like, Westminster Bridge. But the location team had to get up super early in the morning to shoot before the rest of London woke up and headed into the city. So they did a pretty good job, because this bridge is usually exceptionally busy. But also on this bridge, in the movie Die Another Day, the James Bond movie, James Bond receives a key that opens the door to a secret part of MI6 and an abandoned tube station. And the door is actually located at the southern end here of Westminster Bridge. Also featured in the finale of another Bond film, Spectre, in 2015, as 007 shoots down Blofield's helicopter, an explosive scene and ending to that movie when it crashes onto the bridge. But that'll take us next over to the South Bank, to the very famous location of another few movies. Always super busy around here, you guys, but this is County Hall, and is now home to the London Dungeons, the Sea Life Aquarium, and also Shrek Adventure World. But it's in the Sea Life Aquarium. You might remember that very famous scene where Julia Roberts is inside the aquarium and she meets Clive Owen for the very first time in the movie Closer. Another great movie. It features so many fabulous London locations, and it's a beautiful backdrop in there with the aquarium right behind her. as she meets him for the first time. But we're focusing now on the London Eye next. And here, of course, we have one of the most famous landmarks in London, the London Eye. 32 pods on the London Eye to represent the 30 boroughs and the 2 cities of Greater London, including the city of Westminster, 1,000 years old, which you can see right here. And on the other side is the City of London, 2,000 years old. Boroughs are like the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea, the Borough of Greenwich, you get the idea. But in the movie, The Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer, the Fantastic Four must again save the world. And in the Rise of the Silver Surfer, as the intergalactic herald, the Silver Surfer comes to Earth to prepare it for destruction by the evil Galactus. At the London Eye, the Silver Surfer creates a crater in preparation for Galactus's arrival, and the Fantastic Four appear, and during the battle, a team must prevent the London Eye from toppling into the River Thames. But it has become a firm favourite in several movie backdrops and has been used by film companies as a location for the likes of 28 Days Later, Thunderbirds, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, and they're just a few examples. But it was also A Knight's Tale, which was also set in medieval London, even pays homage to the London Eye by featuring a wooden version of the structure in a shot of 14th century London. Now, ladies and gents, just off Whitehall, on the corner of Horse Guards Avenue, directly opposite Horse Guards Parade, we then have the old War Office building. And the first James Bond film to feature the old War Office building was Octopussy, starring Roger Moore that year as 007. And it is seen as the headquarters of MI6, the British Secret Intelligence Service. The building's exterior was featured in an establishing shot before the story continued inside, where the office of Miss Moneypenny and her assistant Penelope Smallbone was also inside there. After Octopussy, the old War Office also featured in A View to a Kill in 1985 and License to Kill again in 1989 as the exterior of the MI6 headquarters. But the building can also be seen, and I always try to figure out where exactly that was on Whitehall, but I've figured it out now eventually. The final scene of Skyfall in 2012, where Daniel Craig as James Bond stands on a roof and looks out at the doomed towers of the old War Office building. Another one of those iconic movie locations here on Whitehall. Now here we are, guys, right in front of the famous Trafalgar Square as well, ladies and gents. Again, the backdrop for so many movies and TV series. Actually, Tom Cruise was closed it down recently again. The new MI8, Mission Impossible 8, which was filmed around here as well. And it was also used in V for Vendetta, which is an incredible movie where a fascist government has taken over the country and a terrorist organization rises up against them, but a vigilante known only as V, or Hugo Weaving, uses terrorist tactics to fight that British government. And at the climax of the film, a tide of protesters dressed as V joined his fight and begin to march from Trafalgar Square right here down Whitehall to the Houses of Parliament, straight down here, you guys. But in Wonder Woman as well, in the 2017 Wonder Woman with Gal Gadot, I believe, or Gal Gadot, her and her team attended the victory celebration in the square, and they also came to mourn the loss of Steve Trevor or Chris Pine. Now, there's also an assassination here of the Prime Minister. It's very noisy around here. Of the Canadian Prime Minister, Robert Bowman, is assassinated when his car explodes here, driving down Trafalgar Square in London Has Fallen, again with Gerard Butler. But it's also had a couple of scenes from The Crown where Queen Elizabeth II and her sister Princess Margaret arrive here to celebrate VE Day, and they snuck out of the palace in that iconic scene where she came to join the crowds of people celebrating the end of the war. That's going to finish up our Westminster side of movie locations today, folks. I really hope you enjoyed this. Sinead signing out here at a very busy Trafalgar Square in central London. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, you guys. Always very important for the channel. And if there's anywhere else you'd like us to go, movie locations or music videos or anything that is iconic to you, give us a comment there. It's always good for the channel to help promote us. Thanks for watching, guys. Sinead here, signing out at Trafalgar Square.